Hello everyone, hi, how are you guys doing today? Welcome to the final episode of the BUFFYCAST Season 6. After this, we're finally done talking about Season 6. We can move on with our lives into Season 7. But for now, final video I want to make. This should be a shorter video, hopefully, though I can never plan that out because I yap too much. We're going to be answering some questions that people have for Season 6 of Buffy and my personal opinions and thoughts about it, which, in case you missed it, I do a couple of posts on Patreon and also on my YouTube community tab asking people, hey, if you have any questions and stuff that I can reply to regarding Season 6, you can leave it there. And I've done that for every season, and I'm probably going to do that for Season 7 as well, so keep an eye out for that whenever I finish Season 7. Okay, so I have a couple of comments that I have to read here that I'm going to maybe put on screen. So we're gonna start with Patreon here, and I don't think there's that many, but I know myself, and I'm probably just gonna elaborate on a lot of stuff, and some of it is something that maybe I have mentioned before, just because I say too many things. But I'm gonna try to elaborate as much as I can. But okay, so we're just gonna get ready here. I said too many things about everything that I could have said about Season 6 already, so check out some other videos if you have any questions regarding a specific episodes or characters. But all right, let's tackle on some questions here. So, okay, first question here comes from KT, and it's, what would you say your favorite plotline this season is? Oh, that's fun. What are our plotlines for this season? Buffy Spike abuse, Buffy being done with the world and then regaining an appreciation for it, Willow's drug abuse and then spiraling out of control whenever Tara dies. And all of that is fueled by her own insecurity. Xander's childhood trauma manifesting in the worst way possible at the wedding and absolutely wrecking his relationship with Anya. And Anya being extremely fucked up as a result of that and heartbroken and turning back into a demon. I don't know, whatever Spike was on. Tara didn't really get much. Tara was a side character to other people's stories, namely Willow. Dawn was cool, but it was very subdued. It was very in the background. Kleptomania, but also just a necessity for people to pay attention to her, which nobody did. I honestly really like Dawn's. I don't think it's that important. It's very in the background, but I do like it. Just personally, my own feelings. I do like that one. What else do we have? The trio of antagonists. Honestly, I really like whatever they're on because their story is one that I find very compelling. Just straight up. Because what is my favorite plotline? Like, there's a lot to love for every single one of the plotlines that I just mentioned. I think I have a personal affinity for Dawn's storyline, which is, Dawn feeling like nobody's paying attention to her. She wants to be loved. She wants to be liked. She doesn't want to feel rejected. And everything about everybody that she's looking at in her around her world in this season is rejecting her, or at least she perceives them to do so. But the reality is that everybody's too busy with their own shit. Everybody's too busy dealing with a drug addiction, or my friend is abusive, or relationship drama, or I just came back to life and I don't have time for anything, and I have to worry about a job and shit. It's it's too much and nobody has time for Dawn, and that makes me very sad for Dawn because I think that is if every other character has a real issue in that it's something that is a real adult issue that everybody has to face, which it carries with the complexity of that. Dawn's issue is almost very beautiful in its simplicity of I just want people, I just don't want to feel alone. And that is also such a teenager problem to have. But it is also a very honest problem to have, because having to worry about a job and having to pay bills and shit, that's a problem that comes from the outside world and what it is asking of you. But Dawn's problem of I just want people to look at me, that's something that is very human, and that's something that I really like for that reason. It's very simple, but I actually really like that one. My other answer is honestly the trio, and when I mean the trio, I'm talking about Jonathan, Warren, and Andrew. I can't keep talking about these three fucking idiots, and the reason for that is because I really like the idea of having three idiots, three nerds that are just fucking around, and then suddenly they kill somebody. It fully swerves And now all three of them have to like deal with that situation. And you can tell that they are not prepared to do that. I really like that. I really, really, really like that. As much as I fucking hate Warren or whatever, I do find the trio of characters as a unit very compelling. Because of what they offer. And I talked about them a lot before, and I think there might be another question about them. I'm going to elaborate further on that. But honestly, like, those are my two answers right now for favorite plotline. Dawn, which is very in the background, but I really like it. And also the trio, and how Jonathan and Andrew have to like kind of adjust to dealing with the fact that they just committed murder, and how much do they want to double down. And Warren, who like fully spirals, because the thing about Warren is that like he didn't want to kill Katrina, he just wanted to rape her, but he didn't want to kill her. But the moment that he killed her, he was like, okay, we're doing this then. Like he fully doubles down. Like, and it's one of those things where like they all cross the line accidentally, and then it's like, okay, what do we do now? Jonathan wants to backtrack. Andrew is frozen and doesn't know which direction to go. And Warren is like, I'm just going to full sprint. I'm just going to keep going and I don't care anymore. You know, he's like, I already crossed the line of murder. I guess I don't have to give a fuck about anything anymore. You know, that's something that I really like. I really like that. So that's a fun plotline. Because you're saying plotline here, but there is not a plot in season 6. The plot is every character is spiraling. Every character is going off the rails. And whenever you have multiple trains going off the rails, at some point they're going to crash into one another, you know? Like, and that's season 6. So the plot is really what character is doing this season. And I guess that answers your question. Okay, so I'm going to move forward here. Another question, again from KT. You said in a recent video that this season should have had 1 or 2 fewer tragedies, and that you didn't care which ones they eliminated. They just went a tad overboard. I am wondering, though, if you did have to choose, which tragedy would you eliminate or have it be handled differently? Whatever the fuck Spike did in that bathroom, I maybe not remove, just handle differently, honestly, because it's one of those things where like I am not gonna say that there are certain depictions that you shouldn't show. I don't think that that's the case. I think you can show a lot of shit, but I do think that things can be handled a little bit differently, and I think that one just made everybody uncomfortable and everybody just angry. I don't think there was... Okay, no. Like, I know for a fact that there are some people that I really appreciated a scene like that, but I think that the vast majority of people just felt incredibly upset, including the people acting the scene. James Masters, he has come out and said that like he had to go to therapy for that shit. And I think that scene enters a realm in which, like, when you're watching Buffy, you don't sign up for that kind of scene to show up. And I guess that applies to the entirety of season 6. So I guess if you're keeping up with season 6, you're not super surprised at something like that could happen. But if you started watching Buffy in like season 1 or something, and you take some time off, and you come back for season 6 and you come into that episode, you're like, what the fuck are they doing? Like, it feels a little bit like that, because there is a tone that is just the show just goes in a completely different direction from what it used to be. And I don't really want to blame anyone for being like, oh, well, you should have expected better. I'm like, no, I think that the show could have handled some things a little bit differently in order to not make it as horrifying to witness. But I get what they're going for, which is it is horrifying to witness because it is something that is horrifying. That's okay. I get that. I think there is value to telling that type of story. I just didn't want to look at it. I'm sorry, like, that is just my answer. Because I've seen stories that deal shit like that. Like, I read Berserk. I like Berserk a lot. Berserk is one of my favorite stories I've ever seen. Berserk has some fucked up shit in it, to say the least. To be as tame as possible. I like Berserk, and Berserk has a lot of fucked up shit in it. But the reason why Berserk works is because Berserk goes for showing you some of the most horrifying things you can possibly imagine. And then also showing you not just the effects, but also the journey that characters take in that. And I suppose if we spend so much of season 7 just having like a journey sprout out from that scene, I suppose I can look back at that scene and feel a little bit better about it. But in that moment, and from what I watched having seen season 6. It feels like that scene was just like, here's some really fucked up shit, which is like the natural conclusion to the escalation of Spike's obsessiveness, but it doesn't really go anywhere other than, at the end of the season, it's like, oh, Spike, once he gets his soul back, haha, tune in for season 7. And I'm like, that doesn't really give me anything to work with right now, So that's why I suppose it doesn't really feel that great right now. And I know I just hated it in the moment. I didn't even look at my screen. And I know a lot of people were like, I don't want to watch this episode reaction just because of that. I think that when your episode does something that is just like, people's reaction is like, I don't want to look at it. I think that there's something wrong there. I think that you could tell this story and also have people engage with it instead of just being like, I don't want to look at it, because then people are not engaging with it. I guess that's the answer. However, I don't know if I would remove that necessarily. I would just handle it differently. But again, your question was if I were to eliminate one of the tragedies, because that was kind of the idea that I threw, which was like 1 or 2 fewer tragedies, so it doesn't feel as overloaded with shit. Okay, I'm gonna say something that, again, is gonna make people feel like a little bit like, whoa, I wasn't expecting that. And it's that I wouldn't change that Tara dies. I wouldn't change it. And the reason why is because I actually kind of like Tara's death for reasons that I did elaborate on further. And I think I have to elaborate on this video as well because I think somebody asked, yeah, there's another question about Tara's death. So I'm going to touch that in a second here. But I wouldn't change Tara's death. What would I change? Because what I'm thinking about is that I kept saying like, yeah, I would remove like 1 or 2 things because otherwise it feels like a little bit overloaded. And I do think that that's the case. But at the same time, I'm thinking about it and I'm like, if I remove something, then I have to think about like the domino effect of like what that causes, which is probably not something that I should be doing, but it's what my brain does. Because I'm thinking about like, well, if I change something with buffing, then I have to change with Spike, and then that changes certain things, and then it becomes like a I don't know, like a billiard effect where like a bunch of balls start like hitting into one another and bouncing around, and it's just like, okay, easy answer I'm gonna throw right now, and it's not really easy, but it's the one I go for because it's the one that I feel a little bit the most weird about. It's honestly Willow and drug addiction, because I don't think Willow's problems are drug related. I think Willow's problems are about her person, and the show really goes to drug addiction angle. We have a magic drug dealer, and I said this before, I think, but like I think that that's the one that I would remove, and I would change it. I mean, the issue is that Willow becomes the antagonist at the end of the season. So that has to happen. But I would just make it so Willow is an ongoing problem in the background. Like Willow's like perception of herself and shit. And it's not actually about magic drugs. It's actually an issue of like Willow is like, honestly, like Faith. I'm thinking about Faith right now. Because like in season 3, Faith was an ally until a certain thing happens. And then she kind of spirals down, but it spirals down out of her own insecurity and the way she sees herself. But Faith is something that we play kind of in a gray area up until a point in which it becomes clear that she cannot, like she's not with us, which is for like the final, like maybe 3rd of season 3 or the final 4th. And then we have a final confrontation with her in the 2nd to last episode, and we just fucking stab her and put her in a coma, right? Like that happens. But the Faith descent is not one in which Faith is like, she's not taking magic drugs, right? And she's not getting corrupted. Faith's descent is entirely coming from within herself, and because of her own, like, essentially coping with her life and the way she perceives herself to be. And that's what makes Faith so compelling to me. And I think that there's an opportunity to make Willow extremely compelling for similar reasons. In that, and because this is also a season in which everyone's problems is super exacerbated and it's like front and center stage, which is why for me it feels a little bit odd that Willow is not that necessarily. It's a little bit there, and it comes in a little bit in the end whenever she's talking about how we don't need Willow anymore because the only person that ever gave a shit about Willow and that made Willow feel like Willow mattered was Tara, and Tara's gone now. So Willow doesn't need to be here anymore. Willow sucks. Anyway, I'm just going to become a ball of magical power and kill everybody. Like that is an element of like Willow's self-consciousness and self-image coming through. And I think that that's cool. But that was briefly mentioned, and it's not the point of the problem when it comes to Willow, I don't think. So the fact that we spend literally half the season, or more honestly, on Willow having magic drugs, crashing out, and then having to do a magic rehabilitation arc for Willow. Like, I do think that I like where it ends, but the entire trip to get there is one where I feel like if you completely remove the drug angle and the rehabilitation angle, and if you only had like Willow like having this small like scenes in which small lines of dialogue in which she just does something that is like a little bit weird and too far, something like season 5, because Willow did this shit in season 5. Like, Willow was a little bit weird in season 5 and a little bit loose. So I would like to have more of that, and then that culminates into whatever happens at the end of season 6, and it feels like it clicks because it does. It's something that makes sense. I think that the drug shit for Willow just is weirdly comes out of nowhere, and it like retroactively fits into Willow's issues, but they were not Willow's issues there before. And they are not necessary for the payoff that we get at the end, which is when Willow spirals the fuck down after Tara dies. I think the drug angle for Willow is one that I think is like brute force into the character. And it's not that it doesn't work, it's that it's brute forced. It's that I think it works better if it wasn't there. You could have written it a little bit simpler, easier, and it would have been fine. I think that is an example of like season 6 is trying to just make everything the worst thing possible. So subtleties for chumps. Willow is gonna be a drug addict, like that. I think that is one of the things that I would change, and honestly kind of remove, because the drug thing, honestly, if it was removed and Willow's like descent was a little bit more in the background, and tell the same story of like her getting better and then everything falls apart the moment her dies, like you could still do that. You could have a story in which like Willow is saying and doing a lot of stuff that is bad, and then she has a moment in which people tell her like, girl, what the fuck are you doing? It could be Tara. Or Tara could leave. It could be exactly the same steps. And it could be this thing of like, Willow, like you're having all these like obsessive tendencies. You're trying to avoid all of these problems and rejection and stuff. And it's like, why do you do that? And it's like, well, because people hate me. And it's like, okay, let's talk about that. Like, I don't hate you, but you need to stop doing this kind of stuff. You need to trust me. You need to trust me. You need to trust your girlfriend. You need to trust Tara. You need to trust all of us whenever we tell you that something's wrong or whenever we tell you not to do something. And if we didn't care about you, we wouldn't be talking to you at all. We would just run away from you. The fact that we're talking to you and the fact that we are leveling with you means that we actually care about you, and we care about our relationship, which is why we're taking this approach in which we can actually like talk. And this is the way in which we can reach to a level of agreement between us, and we can continue having a nice friendship between us. If we didn't talk at all, then we wouldn't be giving a fuck. But because we do, and we care about you and us, that's the reason why we're having these conversations. Because Willow's problem is that whenever anyone told her anything, she was like, well, whatever, I'm gonna make the problem go away with magic. And the problem wasn't the magic, it's the fact that she has the attitude to just say, I'm gonna make the problem go away. Like, and because she does that, it means that she doesn't actually trust anyone else. She's just like, I'm gonna make everything easy for myself because that is the only way I can be happy. And it's like, you have to trust your friends to be able to stick with you, and you can all be happy together instead of just bending them to your will. Like that is the issue, and that is not something that is really talked about. It's all swept under she's taking drugs, which is the magic. Magic is drugs, by the way. That feels weird. You could have told the exact same story without that. Okay. That is the one thing that I would just fully eliminate. And you could still have a similar story, honestly. Like, it's something that feels, one of the things that feels overloaded a little bit. Is there anything else that I could, like, remove, that I would fully remove? Because, like, honestly, like, here's the thing. I said this already before, I'm going to keep saying it. I really like Season 6. I do. I think Season 6 is one of my favorites. I don't want to change it too much. I think there's a couple of changes that I would make, but I don't want to change it too much. I think that doing the Spike thing a little bit differently and doing the Willow drug thing differently by not having drugs and instead just being about Willow herself being the problem, I think that would be it. I don't think I want to change anything else there. I think that those are like one or two fewer tragedies. Like the drug addiction tragedy is one where like we don't need it. we can have the same like exact same story with Willow, and it's a lot better and more subtle. And we have a little bit more room there. And the Spike thing, like, man, I don't know what to say about the Spike thing. The Spike thing is crazy still to me because, like, I need to watch season 7 because before I can say anything. That's how I feel, you know. Like, it just made me feel crazy and incredibly upset, and then he just left, and I don't know what to do with that still. Okay, I think that's gonna be it for those questions. Let me move on to different questions here. Here's another question from Bud Haven on Patreon. How does Angel's murder of Jenny Calendar, oh, that's a name I haven't heard in a while, compare with Spike's sexual assault of Buffy? An addendum here. Both events feel like the final rapture of their relationships. And both season 2 and season 6 ended with the restoration of their souls. How do they compare? I mean, I do agree that is kind of a random comparison a little bit. Because somebody replied to Bud Haven and was like, compare how? And I'm like, okay, I do feel like that's a little bit random, but I see where you're going. I see where you're going here. The raptures of the relationship. It feels like the final straw. I mean, here's the thing. Buffy and Angel were in love. Kind of, you know? And Spike and Buffy were not. So there's... I mean, I guess depending on who you ask, some people could make an argument. But I never saw Buffy and Spike as, like, actually being in love. They were banging every other episode on screen, but, like, Buffy at no point felt good about it. And Spike kept telling her, like, oh, you really want this, you really like this. But it's so clear to me that she didn't. It's so clear to me, like, she wants to run away. She's going through a lot of shit. And she's doing the thing where, like, she just wants to indulge in whatever carnal pleasure she can get at any point, because it's like an escape from the real world. It's something that's very real. It's something that happens to people a lot. So that's what I see in Buffy. I don't see that there's anything that deep between Buffy and Spike there. But they were, like, emotionally, like, utilizing each other. So there is a certain thing there that it's, like, a lot darker. Whereas Buffy and Angel was, like, a lot more romantic, like, vampire fiction. Honestly, like, they were cool with one another. I'm thinking about it now, and I'm just realizing something I hadn't thought about before, and it's that I guess Angel's murder of Jenny Calendar could be the final straw, because, like, they continued to date. They went back to being together in season 3, but season 3 is the season in which, like, for a big chunk of it, they were like, I don't know if this can work anymore. And then at the end of season 3, Angel leaves. So I guess we could make the argument that what happened to Jenny was actually the final straw, because it was the final moment in which, like, Buffy just fully gave up on, like, some emotional internal level. She gave up on him. And then even after he got his soul back and she tried to go back to him, it still didn't work. And it was because on some level, like, it was already done. I suppose that is an interpretation. I hadn't thought about that before, but that could work. Anyway, how does it compare? I don't know if I can draw a comparison here. Because, okay, here's the thing. Season 2 and Season 6 ended with a restoration of their souls. Yeah, I guess, I mean, okay, Season 2 ends with Angel dying. Right? Like a restoration of his soul, and also he dies and goes to super hell. But then he comes back in Season 3. And I guess this is the thing. I don't know if I can say much about that because I haven't watched Season 7 yet. Like, I don't know where Spike goes. That's really the issue. That's where so much of what I'm talking about regarding Spike, it ends with me saying, like, I don't know, man. And the reason why is because, like, I don't know where Spike goes. Spike is a character that has so much potential because he has so much shit around him happening at all times. And like, I don't know where that character is gonna go. So I don't know if I can really reply to this. Because if I were to draw a comparison between Angel and Spike, like, I don't know what comparison I could... I mean... the only thing that I can compare is, like, what they meant to Buffy, but I don't know where Buffy stands on this. Well, I can take a big assumption as to where Buffy stands with Spike, which is like, fuck that guy, you know? Like, I'm gonna kill him the next time I see him. Like, I guess that is where Buffy could stand with Spike. I would imagine. But I don't know where Spike himself is going to go after this. And there is a difference, I suppose, because, like, Buffy and Angel, for as much fucked up shit as Angelus did, I don't think Angelus did anything as fucked up as what Spike did directly to Buffy. And that is kind of a fascinating thing too about, like, stuff that we see. Because, like, for some, like, Spike trying to rape Buffy and being unsuccessful in doing so feels worse than just Angelus just killing Jenny. And I guess it's because Angelus is a different character from Angel. Like, they share the same body, but they're different people. I think they are. So that's why the Spike thing feels worse. I would say that. It feels worse. And it's also just because, like, I don't know, like, this is just, I guess it's just the shit that, like, you're accustomed to seeing on, like, media. But, like, I'm pretty desensitized to murder. But sexual assault feels so much wrong. It's also just the reality of things in the real world, I suppose. I feel like one of those crimes is a lot more unpunished than the other. So the reality of it feels so much more gross to me. So I guess from an audience perspective, one of them makes me feel a lot worse. And it also feels worse because Spike is a character that we follow, whereas Angelus was like a state that Angel went into, which made him different. But like, as to what they mean to Buffy or to Spike and Angel, I don't know, because I haven't seen what Spike is going to be next season, and I haven't seen what Buffy is going to feel about Spike next season. I can make assumptions about how Buffy feels about Spike, and I don't think they're big assumptions to make. They're pretty clear, because that was fucked up, but I don't know exactly where it's going to be at. So I don't know if I can say much other than what I just said. So yeah, I hope that answers your question somewhat. Moving on, here's the other question that I alluded to earlier, which is, what's your view on Tara's death? Obviously, we all hate that she died, but I mean from a storytelling point of view. I heard people argue it sent a bad message, like punishment for the... Yeah, that's... We've all heard that one. Punishment for the gays or something like that. It's a trope. It's a trope called bury your gays. Because it happens a lot in media where, like, you have gay people and they're in a relationship and they're happy and then one of them dies, you know? But I thought it was just an effective tragedy storytelling. Not deliberately meant to send any messaging and end the lesbians or anything like that. I do think it was particularly cruel how the show went out of this way to have Willow and Tara be the happiest I've ever seen, just to make the tragedy sting that much harder. But then again, that could also just be seen as just good storytelling. Okay, here's the thing about Tara's death. I'm going to elaborate on this. And I think I talked about it briefly, but I'm going to elaborate on it here. I actually like Tara's death. I hate it, but I like it. I hate it because I liked her a lot. Tara's one of my favorite characters in the entire Buffyverse. My top two is probably Faith and Tara. Like, it's one and the other. It's pretty cut and dry. I hate that she died, and I understand why my entire comment section put me on suicide watch whenever that episode aired. Everyone was like, are you okay? And then other people were like, are you going to finish the season? I wouldn't blame you if you stop watching. It's okay. I'm okay, guys. And the reason why I'm okay, the reasons why, and it's something you alluded to in your comment here. Sorry, I don't know if I said who made the comment. The comment is from Robert Torres on Patreon. Your comment says here, I do think it was particularly cruel how the show went out of its way to have Willow and Tara be the happiest I've ever met, just to make the tragedy seem much harder. Here's the thing. I do think it's a little cruel. And I do think they did that shit on purpose. And I do think that they wanted it to sting as much as they could. And I do think that they were having a little bit of fun by including Tara in the intro. However, I think that the reason why the tragedy also stings so hard is not just because, they're happy. It's because it's so sudden and so random. Because, like, if somebody dies in a show or in a movie or in whatever, oftentimes, not always, but oftentimes you can kind of tell where the story is leading you. You can kind of tell that they are kind of wrapping something up with this character, or they're preparing you so that you are ready for tragedy to strike. But what happens in Seeing Red is something that, like, honestly, people forget about this, I feel like, because there's so much else that happens, but Seeing Red spends so much time of the episode telling a story about Buffy and Xander and their friendship. And Xander feeling like they don't get him, and them feeling like everybody feeling like they couldn't talk about things, and it's like, you can trust me, I'm your friend. That is what Seeing Red was like for a big part of the episode. And the reason why Buffy and Xander are in, like, the backyard talking to each other is because they're having this heart-to-heart of, like, we're friends. We can talk about these things. I trust you. And that felt really nice. And that was a resolution to that story. And then Warren shows up. And the thing is that the moment that Warren shows up, the show is doing something that is completely different. The show is going completely off the rails, because in traditional storytelling, we are telling the story about like Xander and Buffy and their friendship and trusting. We are also telling the story of Willow and Tara being back together. And it seems like it all resolved, and then some other shit happened. And that's the part that feels sudden. Because in traditional storytelling, you have beginning, middle, end. You have like some kind of conflict and you have a resolution. And it feels like we already dealt with the conflict and we already dealt with the resolution. And then something else added up. And that was an outlier. And that outlier kills Tara in a very random way, because not even Warren wanted that to happen. And that is the part that feels cruel and unfair, because on some level, storytelling wise, you feel betrayed over the fact that this just occurred, because the episode was going fine, everything was fine, we resolved the issues, people are talking to one another, we arrived to a conclusion, there is resolution for every plot thread that we had for this episode, and now Warren shows up with a gun and he guns down Buffy and kills Tara. And like that feels sudden because it is. And it is constructed to be sudden, which means that it is constructed to be cruel, because it doesn't give you time to prepare. It doesn't give you any time or a reason why you would prepare. It's just like, no, here's some shit that happens, deal with it. It is very cruel on like a formatting sense. It is cruel. But more than cruel, I do think that they were being cruel just to have fun, honestly. The fact that they put Tara in the intro, even though I didn't notice immediately, but I noticed as I was talking about the review of that episode, in case you missed it. It's in the timestamp. I noticed eventually. And I think that that's cruel, deliberately. But I do think it's cruel in like a we're having fun sense. But I don't think that that's the whole reason. And I think that that's why I like it. And it's because I think the reason why Tara dies so suddenly, and it feels so cruel, and it is so cruel, is not just to make it sting, is to drive a point. And the point is the point of the season. Season 6 is a season about, hey, the world just kind of sucks sometimes. Sometimes you just have the worst day of your life and everything is shit. What do you do with it? And that's it. That's season 6. Like, that was the assignment that they gave to the writers. It was like, write the worst day of your life. That is what season 6 is. Sometimes a guy shows up with a gun and kills your girlfriend and a straight bullet. Just to make it worse. Sometimes that shit just happens. And that's just the way the world works. That is what season 6 is going for. And I do like it. I do actually like it for that very reason. Because Tara's death is not just, hey, we just murdered this lesbian for no reason. Tara's death is, she died for no reason because her reason to die was thematic, was symbolic, was indicative of the idea that the entire season is going for. Which is sometimes life just sucks. Sometimes you got dealt a bad hand, man. That's it. Tara's death actually fits extremely nicely with the idea of season 6, with the theme for season 6. Which is why I like it. Honestly, like, I hated that it happened because I didn't want Tara to die. I hate that I'm not gonna get to see Tara again because I love her. I hate that she doesn't want to. I hate that she doesn't get to be happy. I hate that they also took it away in the moments in which they were the happiest in a long time. I hate that they did so many things to make it sting as much as possible. But that was good storytelling. It was. The way in which they take that away from you. I do think that they did it deliberately to make it as hard as much as possible. And I think that on some level they wanted to do that to make you like empathize with Willow a little bit more, maybe. But also just to make you hurt. Because sometimes they just kind of troll around with these episodes, to be honest with you. But I do think that primarily the reason why Tara's death works is because it works for the idea that season 6 is going for. And in that way, it feels a little bit like fate. You know, it feels like a little bit fated to happen. Because we are trapped in the rules of a world that is giving you the worst possible situation to occur at any given time. So it's just a matter of time before Tara just dies. It's just a matter of time to like a straight bullet to just find Tara's hearth. Even if it made no sense whatsoever for that to be the case. Even if it was completely random because Warren didn't even know that he had done that because he didn't meant to do that. I do think it's still cool because it still works within the confines of what season 6 is. And it works better than most things that season 6 is going for. Because season 6 is going for like, yeah, the world just kind of sucks sometimes. But a lot of what season 6 is doing is like, oh, characters are just like having the worst day and they're doing the worst thing they could be doing. You know, Xander leaving Annie at the altar. Like, that is one of the worst things that Xander could be doing. But that's not on the world sucking as much as it is on Xander having problems. You know, and Xander is a product of the world, so we can draw that line. But that's like too many steps to get to that point. Tara's death is just like happenstance. It just kind of happens randomly. And that really drives the point home to me. Like, the idea of season 6 of like, yeah, sometimes this shit just goes down. And you just kind of have to deal with that. And sometimes you can cope and sometimes you don't. Sometimes you spiral the fuck down and become a serial killer, which is what Willow tried to do. And I like that. I think Tara's death works extremely well. To address what you said of like, bury your gays. I mean, I would find Tara's death. I'm going to take a wild shot here. And I'm going to say that I'm going to assume that when people watched this in 2001 or whatever, that people were pretty upset about Tara dying. People probably made a lot of noise about that happening. I am just gonna take a wild guess and I'm gonna make that assumption here that people were pretty upset that Tara died because it felt like they deliberately wanted to be as bad as possible. Okay, I might take a little bit of issue with that because it feels like they're just being assholes on purpose. But I do think that her death is really good for the story of the season. So I don't really have an issue with that. Specifically about, the gay character dying. Well, here's the thing. We still have a gay character in our main cast, which is Willow. And she became an evil Willow and she tried to go on a rampage and kill a bunch of people. And that's pretty cool. It's pretty cool that we had an evil gay as the main antagonist. And then we tried to talk her down and we mostly succeeded. And she's going to stay in our main cast, we have like a canonical gay character who like ripped the skin off and burned somebody alive, who was a rapist and killer. And we did that shit. And she's still our main cast member. She's not like, we did have her go down a route of evil for a little bit, but she did all that shit and she's still with us. So that's pretty cool. My proposed solution is that we need another gay character to walk in. That is my proposed solution, is that we need another lesbian to walk in. And Willow doesn't have to move on from Tara immediately. Honestly, that would feel a little bad if Willow moved on from Tara like for next season. I guess what we need is some kind of demon that turns Buffy into a lesbian. That's what we need. That's my proposed solution to solve this problem. That's how we fix Buffy. Okay, here's another comment that I'm just reading. It's not a question. The plan was to kill Oz to set Willow off had Seth Green never left the show. So I think it's safe to say it wasn't because they were gay. Like, I didn't think that that was the case, just to be clear. But that's interesting. I didn't know. So that's interesting because Oz left 2 years ago. Oz left in the middle of season 4. And they had a plans for him to leave like very early on in season 4 already. So like Seth Green was gonna... So they had this idea of like Willow going off the rails and just killing a bunch of people like so long ago. Okay, that's interesting. And that also tracks. That makes sense to me because Willow has been slowly going off the rails for years now. So I think it makes sense that this was an idea that they had years ago and they just finally executed now. Okay, that's cool. That's fun. I didn't know that. That's good. Thank you for letting me know of that. All right, so that was Patreon's questions. I am now going to go to YouTube. And again, we don't have a lot of questions here, but I'm yapping. I'm yapping here. But okay, we have more questions. Question here on YouTube from Gikoma. The trio's turn from joke to serious villains, or just Warren, one of the most fascinating parts of season 6 to me. Yes, I would agree. 100%. It is one of the most fascinating things about season 6 for me. And I think I said why, but I'm just going to repeat it here. Is because Jonathan, Andrew, and Warren are 3 different types of guys that are very real in the real world. Which is unfortunate, but it happens. And I love that the way that they are depicted in the show is very real as well. Because Jonathan, Andrew, and Warren at the beginning, whenever they appear for the first time, it's like, oh, we are nerds talking about nerd shit, but we're gonna try to take over the world. And they're like jokes, right? They are jokes. Because every time they're on screen, like they make like, I'm gonna shove them into a locker type, like Big Bang Theory ass shit dialogue. Like that's the way they talk. And it makes you want to like scream at them. It's like, God damn it, I hate these guys. They're so annoying, but they're annoying in a funny way. They are not annoying in a bad way, like Spike. They're annoying in a funny way. So you don't take them very seriously until the episode with Katrina. Because in the episode with Katrina, they go on this thing of like, oh, we created some kind of device to turn a woman into a sex slave. And I remember watching that episode and I was like, do I have to watch? Like, I felt so bad. I felt like I don't want to watch these guys and I don't think I can deal with them anymore. And the fact that they are tackling on something that is so serious and real and gross in such a like funny, nonchalant way made me upset. I didn't want to watch that. And you can tell in the reaction probably. It made me feel so good whenever they actually went to do it. And then Katrina broke free. And then Katrina was like, this is not a joke. This is rape. And she said it like that. And I remember my reaction to that. And I think people clocked that reaction from me. I think I read comments of people being like, you are like the first person who has had this type of reaction. And I'm very grateful you did. Because my reaction was like, yes. Just like, you can tell that I was so frustrated. And at that point I was like, yes, what the fuck are we doing? Like, thank you for saying that way specifically. Because it is essentially the show utilizing Katrina to fully like look at the audience and be like, this isn't funny. This is real shit. This is bad. This is gross. What are we doing here? That is the moment in which it clicked for me, and then it clicked harder because later, like immediately after that, Katrina is like, I'm gonna get out of here and I'm gonna go talk to the police. And then Warren kills her. And when Warren kills her, that's the moment where I saw perfectly what we were doing with these three. And I was like, oh, that's so good. Because what we're doing with these three is that we're telling a story about like three nerdy friends or whatever who are just like fucking around and going under like chuny shit. Oh, we're super villains, whatever. But then they kill somebody after they tried to rape her. And that's the moment in which Jonathan and Andrew realized that they were not role-playing Power Rangers. They were murder rapists. Attempted rapists. But complicit in murder. And it's the moment in which the show it's almost honestly a microcosm of the season as a whole. The show as a whole. Honestly, it's like cinema because it's like season 1, season 2, season whatever, like early seasons of Buffy, a lot of it is just like, here's the demon of the week, here's the monster of the week, and everybody was kung fu fighting and then we defeated, and it's like, man, that was great. And then that's the episode. So much of early Buffy is that. And of course, a little bit of a story of like coming of age. You know, Buffy has teenager issues. Oh my God, she wants to be with a boy. She wants to be popular. Whatever issues she had to deal with at the time, that was still a part of the show. I'm not going to try to discredit that. But a lot of it was villain of the week. We defeat the monster. We punched good. We do it. We save the day. Credits roll. And you can, and I remember, and I don't know if I've, I understand why people were upset when my reaction to the first episode of the show was this, but I remember I watched the first episode of Buffy and I was like, oh, this like reminds me of like Power Rangers, which I said that positively because that was like a part of my childhood that I really like. It's just like there's some kind of formulaic stuff. There's like a monster of the week and we just like punch it, and we have very bad makeup and effects to go with that. Which was the case with Buffy season 1. I'm gonna be real with you. It was like I thought it would look weird, but you can tell that Andrew and Jonathan, they were on that idea of like, this is what we're doing. Which when Katrina puts it so directly, just like, this is rape. That is what it is. I remember that Jonathan and Andrew just kind of froze, and they were like, no, we weren't trying to like. And it's like, these motherfuckers didn't think about it. They didn't put in a thought to realize that is what they were doing, because they were doing it. They were. And that's why I was getting upset. And when she said it, it's the first moment that they were realizing that what they were doing wasn't some stupid cartoon shit. It was the real world with real consequences and real people in it. And when Warren murders Katrina, then you get to see how all three of them go in different directions. Jonathan is like, I don't want to do this. Andrew is like, I didn't want to do this, but now that I saw that we kind of got away with it, I'm kind of into it. Not because he's into the murder, but because he's into the I am above the rules, and that makes him feel cool, I guess. And also, I guess he has a crush on Warren, so he just kind of follows what Warren is doing. And Warren is a full-on psychopath. Like, he didn't want to murder Katrina, but he did want to rape Katrina. Like, the other two were kind of tagging along and didn't think about it too hard, but Warren 100% wanted to rape Katrina. Like, he just wanted his ex-girlfriend back, and he just wanted to rape her. And then, when he murders her, he decides to double down rather than like try to back off a little bit. He's like, we commit a murder, okay, we have to cover the murder. And then we probably should keep doing more crimes because like, fuck it, who's stopping me now? And I really like that story because it's so compelling to me. Because it is a story in which like the show fully just like does a 180. Like through the storyline of those three idiots, we are telling the microcosm of season 6 of like, yeah, we were kind of goofing around, but now it's really serious. And now we have to deal with the severity of like real life. And it's also the story of Jonathan, Andrew, and Warren being like three real types of dudes that you run into the world. Like, I have met probably a Jonathan, an Andrew, and a Warren. I don't know who the Warren was, but I probably met someone that was a Warren, you know? Like, I probably met one of those like guys who, if the specific opportunity arises, that they would do some fucked up shit because they don't care that much. I probably met that kind of guy. Usually they don't do stuff because of the punishment that would occur upon them if they did, and that is what keeps them in check. But if they saw the opportunity, maybe they would do that. That's the kind of shit that Warren is. I probably met a Warren at some point in my life, but I know for a fact that I met a Jonathan, and I know for a fact that I met an Andrew. A Jonathan is the type of guy who just finds himself in this situation because he's just hanging out with the wrong crowd. But he's lonely, so he just hangs out with whoever is like the nerdy kid that just talks to him. So that's just the play he's at. Like, it's actually very easy for me to see myself in Jonathan a little bit, you know? Just like the kid who just happened to be here because they were lonely and they wanted friends, and he just hang out with bad people because he was a fucking dumbass who didn't realize it in time. But he realized it late, and we get to see what it's like to be the guy who realized that this is a bad group to hang out with after they committed the murder. And then you're in a position in which you don't want to be with them. You want to throw them out the bus, honestly, just like fuck these guys. But you're stuck in there, so what do? Jonathan actually helped Buffy out. He was like, yeah, I'm gonna help Buffy so that she is able to defeat Warren, and she did. And I like that. I like that Jonathan was like, yeah, I'm gonna fucking turncoat on them because fuck those guys. And he did have that moment in the second to last episode, which was kind of undercut in the last episode, but in the second to last episode, he was like, you know, we have to be locked down, you know, we have to like repent for our sins or whatever the fuck he said, you know, like deal with like the crimes that we caused, you know. He did have that moment in which he faced Andrew and he was like that, and I think that was kind of cool. Andrew is the type of guy who is very meek, and he's a coward. And that means that he spends so much of his life just cowering because he's a fucking shy nerd. But the moment that he gets the chance to be on top, the moment that he gets the chance to just like get a taste of what it's like to be above rules, laws, and consequences, he's like, oh, that's kind of cool. Because he's getting a high off the idea of like, oh, I get to have power for once in my life. I get to be on top for once in my life. Instead of being the guy who's always just hiding and being like, no, please don't look at me. I get to be the guy who's like, I have power to get away with shit. Fuck, that feels good. So he's getting a high off of that. He doesn't necessarily want to do the murders, but he is the guy who is like, I'm gonna keep doing this because it feels kind of good to just not have to deal with consequences, to be powerful. Isn't that nice? I never got to have that before. And then you have Warren, who's just a full-on psychopath. Warren is a guy who doesn't care about other people. He just cares about himself and what he wants. And he will bend the world to his will to be what he wants it to be. And you get to see how exactly each of them goes in the specific direction that they're predisposed to be at. But they are all starting in the assassin position, which is like, we all are complicit in murder. What do we do now? And then you get to see each a specific type of guy going in a specific direction. And I really like that. I find it very compelling. I find the realization that now this is something that's really real. That fully recontextualizes all of the stupid nerd shit that they did at the beginning. And it makes it so much better because it's like the show is like slapping them and you, the audience, in the face and being like, we're not doing stupid shit. This is serious. Like fucking, it's rape. There's no joke here. There's no irony. It's just bad. Look at it for what it is. And that is a moment that I think is really going to stand out for me. After I finish the show, that moment where Katrina says that to these three fucking idiots, and you get to see their reactions of realizing that slowly, it's one of the moments that's really going to stand out for me after the show's over. Like, I'm going to keep remembering that, because it is a moment in which, like, I fully wasn't expecting the show to do that. Because, like, I fully was expecting the show to be like, you know, we're doing some goofy shit, and we're treating something serious as something that is not. And then the show is like, no, it's not. And I'm like, thank you for saying that. And I realized that the reason why they were doing it goofy to begin with was because they wanted to kind of lure the audience to that mind space and kind of like force them to think about it critically. And if you fail to think about it critically, then the show kind of slaps you in the face and it's like, motherfucker, this is bad. And I really like that. I really did. It really stood out to me. I love what they did with those three. I really do. It's so cool. Okay, that wasn't even a question. That was just an excuse for me to yap about something. Okay, let's move on to our next question here. From Martin Gonzalez, KE9UI, I guess. Martin Gonzalez, in YouTube. How would you rank season 6 finale versus previous seasons? Oh, you have several questions. Okay, let's go in order. How would you rank season 6 finale versus previous seasons? The finale specifically, it's good. What's my favorite finale? It might be season 3. Well, season 5 is really good, actually. I just remember that Buffy died at the end of season 5, and it was pretty good. Season 5 is probably the best one because it's the one that feels like the end of the show. It feels like the planned end of the show. It's really good for that reason. I really like season 3, season 5. Season 6 is pretty good. Not 1, not 2. I like Restless. Are we counting Restless as the season finale for season 4? Because like the finale for season 4 is the fight against Adam, which I don't give a fuck about. But I love Restless. So if we count Restless is pretty high up there. It's better than season 6. Restless by itself is better than the season 6 finale. I do like the season 6 finale, but I think I would rank it lower than season 5, and I think I would rank it lower than season 3, honestly. Like I would, but I think it's I think it's spot number 3, unless we count Restless as the finale for season 4, in which case it's number 4. Because it's not season 1 and it's not season 2. Yeah, no. I those are my least favorite ones. That's not to say they're bad. They're just my least favorite ones. I like the season 3 one because the first part is faith, and the second part is we have a little bit of faith in the second part, but we have the mayor acting out because he just lost a daughter, which I found very compelling. And then we have like the entire school come together to fight the giant snake, and then the school blows up. And it feels like such a good like cap to the entire high school saga, which is all 3 seasons. So that's why I really like season 3. Season 3 is fantastic. Also, Faith is there. Season 5 feels like the end of the show, and it's really good for that. So I like it for that reason. And if I count Restless, because Restless is just like the craziest character analysis of all time, if you're willing. Which I did. I was willing. I made like a 4-hour video on Restless. So like that video, so like that episode, if we count it by itself, is like either number 1 or number 2. But if we don't, and if we are actually talking about Adam, then season 6 comes in 3rd place. Because the idea of Willow's character evolving to this point is something that makes sense. Spiraling down because of what happened to Tara makes sense. And her just going evil Willow and trying to essentially end the world because everyone is sad. I think it works. I like it. And I do like that Sanders solved the problem because Sanders is Willow's friend, so he was there for her. That's really cool. I like it. I like it overall. It is not my favorite. but it's like top 3, probably. Next question. Again, all of these from Martin Gonzalez. Top 3 best episodes of the season. God damn it. What was my ranking? Hold on a second. I can answer this because I made a tier list of what's the best episode of season 6. I'm going to check out my own video. My top 3 episodes, I'm looking at them right now, is Once More with Feeling, Hell's Bells, which is the wedding episode, and I think it's Dead Things is the other one. Is it Dead Things? Yes. Which, again, is the episode in which the bullshit with Warren, Andrew, and Jonathan, and where the show actually fully goes full serious. And it feels like a turning point for the season, even though, yeah, all of the goofy shit happened before this point. So, yes, that's my top 3 of episodes this season. It's Once More with Feeling, it's Hell's Bells, and it's Dead Things. Probably my favorite would be either Dead Things or Once More with Feeling. And then Hell's Bells comes in third. The reason why I really like Hell's Bells, just to be clear, is because I think the storyline with Xander is something that has been happening in the background for so long, but it's been there, and I noticed I talked so much about it on Restless. Like, I predicted so much of Xander's character in Restless 2 years ago. Like, 2 seasons ago. In the show was 2 years ago. So when this happened, I'm like, that's perfect. I'm so glad that it's like this, you know? And it's also some stuff that I can identify with, so I understand them on a personal level as well. This is also why I said earlier that, like, it would be cool if we didn't do, like, the drug thing with Willow, because if we told us the same story, like, with Willow, like, similarly to Xander, I would like it so much more, because it would be things about Willow that if you are noticing in the background, it all pays off, which is what the Xander stuff feels like to me. Is that it pays off in this wedding. The Willow stuff would have paid off when Tara dies, but instead we had to make this whole, like, drug thing come into the forefront, and to me that feels less rewarding, and that it makes a little bit less sense that if we had just kept playing the Willow character as we have been playing it. Okay, man, I keep, like, having this perfect segue into the next questions. Next question again from Martin Gonzalez. Comments on Willow's arch or development? Arch. I think you mean arc. Willow's arc or development. I said so much. Remove the drug thing and it's perfect. But even with the drug thing, it's really good already. I really like it. I think it makes a lot of perfect sense. Like, I think it makes perfect sense for Willow to have developed in this specific way, which she is at the beginning of season 6. Because Willow has been a person that has been, like, shy and powerless before, and you know, the shy nerd in the background. Willow has developed a tendency to not want to feel rejected and to avoid rejection. However, she then adopts a fundamentally unhealthy way of dealing with that, which is to not deal with it whatsoever. It's like, I'm going to run away from the problems. I'm going to make the problems go away. Instead of actually taking the problems and actually adapting to them, she decides that the problems shouldn't be there to begin with. You know, because she's now witch, she has magic. So that means that now she can make the problems go away. She can poof them away. So she doesn't have to feel bad for them. When what she should do is to actually take the things and feel bad about them. But the thing is that, I mentioned this before, I think, but it's like, I think that some people, we had like an amount of freedom, and I say we because this is me. We have had an amount of freedom, and we have utilized that freedom in such a way in which we eventually ended up hitting some kind of consequence, either for us or for people around us. And we see it and we go like, oh, I didn't want to do that. And you feel bad about it. So then what happens is that you kind of snap back and then you kind of check yourself and you go like, okay, I have been kind of fucking around too much. I'm going to try not to do that. I'm actually going to do the opposite. I'm going to make a conscious effort to go the other way and to restrict myself, to hold myself back so that that doesn't happen again, because I care, because I felt bad, because I don't want things to go back anymore. So you have kind of a desire that comes out of yourself to want to pull yourself back and to be like, no, you can't really be enjoying yourself to that degree. You have to kind of just check yourself, because that's what's better for you and for everybody around you. If everybody just did whatever the fuck they wanted, the world will be on fire. So you kind of have to realize that there is a level in which you can say no to yourself, and you have to do that. Then there's people like Willow, who I feel are the opposite, who maybe they spent their entire, like, upbringing being told, no, you can't do that. Or being put into boxes and rules and being like, no, you have to do things like this. You have to do things like that. You have to be this specific thing. You have to fit a certain image, etc., etc. And what happens for a lot of those types of people, and this happens in the real world as well, I know people like this, is that when they grow up and they start having this taste of freedom of like, I can do whatever I want because I'm a fucking adult, what happens is that they go way overboard in that direction. I learned the lesson of I can't just do whatever I want because that will hurt people. So I'm going to try not to do that. But they didn't learn that lesson early on. So they are going 110% into the direction of like, I do whatever the fuck I want and I don't care what happens. And then you run into consequences, which is what the episode, what was it, Wrecked or Smashed? It's one or the other. It's the episode in which Willow is like literally crying on the floor and screaming, I'm sorry. Like that's when she finally hit the wall of consequences. You know, Tara dumped her, Dawn hates her, Buffy is having a hard time just even being on her side. It's just like, no, fuck you. And it's this thing of like, Willow is finally hit the point of consequences of like, I'm doing things wrong. And it's the moment that finally feels so rewarding for me because it's like, yes, girl, like I learned this lesson when I was like 13 and Willow didn't. So Willow is to me acting like a child. Whenever she's going on this, like, I can do whatever I want, I can bend people to my will or whatever. It's like, she's acting like the way I was acting when I was 12. It's so like, I'm waiting for Willow to finally hit the point of like maturity of like, girl, you need to fucking have empathy for people to just stop caring about like, I do whatever I want. It's like, girl, you're not 12. And when she finally hits that moment, I find it very rewarding. But the thing is that that's not the focus of what Willow is going for this season, because they're really doing this like drug addiction thing. And to me, that feels less interesting and less rewarding and less subtle too. And it feels brute forced is what I said. It feels forced. So yeah, those are my comments on Willow's arc. But I do think that it's really good for what it is going for, broadly speaking. It is really good for what has been building up in the background for seasons now. And it is also a great like payoff at the end of the season, because at the end of the season when Tara dies, we spent zero time explaining why Willow is doing anything. You fully understand why. You don't need a reason. You don't need the show to tell you like, oh, Willow is going crazy because of whatever reason. It's like, no. You know the reasons. You know everything perfectly. You don't need any more time spent in like telling you or explaining anything to you. It's like, no, you get it. So I think it works really well for all of us. So I think my comments on Willow's arc are generally very positive. I just think they kind of overdid it a little bit with the drug angle. But everything else, broadly speaking, fantastic. I love it. Okay, next question. Again, Martin Gonzalez. Comments on Spike arc. Hit me up again in season 7. It made me miserable. Next question. Most enjoyable episode of the season. The one that you would like to watch over and over again. Oh, thank you for clarifying. So enjoyable. Like an episode that I want to watch again and again and again. Let me look at my tier list again. See, try to remind myself. That's interesting. It's very interesting for the season specifically, because season 6 is a season that it's not so much comprised of standalone episodes. Because season 6 is a season of arcs, characters going through arcs. It is about we're all having issues, and those issues are kind of, they build up, they resolve as the season goes through, and that's like the entire point of the season. We don't have episodes that are super standalone in this season. We have a couple. So when we're talking about enjoyable episodes, also there's very little to enjoy this season. To be honest with you, like I think I said early on in season 6, I don't remember which episode it was, but it's very early on, to the point that it's like comical. But very early on, I said something like, this season is just giving me episode after episode that like they make me fucking miserable. Like I don't want to watch them, but I want to talk about them because they're interesting. That's season 6. So I feel like the obvious answer is Once More with Feeling. That is an episode that's just like fun to watch. I guess Tabula Rasa is also kind of good. Tabula Rasa is also kind of funny. So Tabula Rasa is another one that is like enjoyable. I would also just really like watching Dead Things, honestly. Life Zero would be fun too, honestly. Life Zero sounds fun. It seemed Buffy go through retail time loop is fun to me. Yeah, those are probably the episodes that I would say are the most enjoyable to watch. But that's a fun question in this season specifically because everything sucks. Okay, next question, and the final question from Martin Gonzalez. Comments on Dawn's character now that she's just a human and has no mystical purposes in season 5. I think Dawn is underutilized in season 6, but that's okay. Season 6 had already enough shit in it. But I really like Dawn. Dawn is amazing. I really like Dawn's character for the season. I really like that she wants people to like her, to be there for her, to just look at her. She just wants attention. And that's not a bad thing. She's just like 15 years old and she's going through a lot. She doesn't have a mom anymore. Her sister was dead for half a year and then she came back and she became a deadbeat sister that she didn't want to hang out with her anymore. And it's like, what are we doing? Like, I feel really bad for Dawn this season. I just want Dawn to be fucking happy. Now that Tara cannot be happy, I just want Dawn to be happy next season, if possible. It's gonna be difficult now that Tara's not here anymore, but I want Dawn to be happy, dude. Like, please. My comments on Dawn's character is that I love Dawn. She's amazing. I empathize with her a lot. Even if she didn't have a lot of screen time this season, I didn't feel like she was shoehorned in. Like, I feel like if they shoehorn a character, it would feel worse than if they were just hanging out in the background, which is what Dawn did for a lot of it. And I like that even in the background, she had enough characterization for you to feel bad for her and for it to make sense and empathize with her a lot. I like Dawn a lot. She's great. I want her to be happy next season. Those are my comments in Dawn. I like her as just a human. She already was a human previous season, honestly. Like, I didn't treat her too much like a mystical MacGuffin. She was just cool. I like Dawn. And I guess next question, one final question here from you two, from Ross Hall 6475. Coolest side character, Clem. That's it. Thank you so much for tuning in for this season 6 BuffyCast. I don't know if I want to say more. Like, I coolest side character. Like, who's a side character? Honestly, Clem. Clem rule. I love Clem. Clem is just so funny and goofy and droopy. And I love Clem is also such a funny name. I think the bit of just like having a demon who just looks like a demon, just full body like makeup and suit or whatever. And then the demon is like, hey guys, what's up? Like that's just so funny to me. I think that's such a funny bit. And they did it as well this season in Angel. Like in Angel season 3, they also had a character who's Skip. His name is Skip. And he's like a guy who is like the jailer or like a really like sinful human or whatever. And Angel shows up and he's like, hey man, what's up? And it's like, hi, how are you doing? My name is Skip. Oh, cool. So do you like live here? It's like, no, I commute. My house is like 10 minutes away. It's like, oh, cool. So we have to fight or whatever. And it's like, do you want to fight? It's like, yeah. It's so funny to me. And then they use Skip like 3 times. Is Angel season 3. It was really funny. Clem feels that way too, but less useful. Clem is just kind of hanging out. The fact that they invited Clem to like Buffy's birthday or whatever to hang out with wherever Dawn was doing her like I don't want anyone to live shit. Like that was so good. I love Clem. Clem is so funny. That's the coolest side character. I love Clem. That's my answer to a question. Okay, that's gonna be it for this video recording. I yapped for like an hour and a half despite not having that many questions. Yeah, I do that. So yeah, I'm excited to start Buffy season 7. I guess to people on Patreon, and I guess if you're on YouTube, you can answer this as well. But let me know if there is anything that I should know for Buffy season 7 about like the formatting, any specific episodes that have like weird different versions of like episode order with Angel. I was told that there's something like this. Somebody left me a comment. I have to check that out again. But just in case, let me know again if there's anything I should know about Buffy season 7, because again, I'm just kind of flying blind. I'm just gonna get the episodes and I'm just gonna watch them. That's gonna be the end of it. So if there's something I should know, let me know right ahead of time. Thank you so much, you guys, for tuning in for this BuffyCast episode, season 6. We're done. Moving into season 7 next, so stay tuned for that. But if you would like to watch Buffy season 7 already, it should be up on Patreon. Check out the Patreon, link in the description below, pop up on the screen. You can support the channel, watch some of the other cool stuff that I do, and we are off to start the final season of Buffy. Thank you so much for tuning in. See you guys next time. Bye bye. Take care.